and welcome to the Ask Biz Show. I'm Kevin Amelsberger. I want to start today with a question. What is the best steak you've ever eaten, Ben? I'm actually not a huge steak eater, but the best cut of beef I've ever had was at a food truck in Austin, Texas, called Law Barbecue. And if there was one here, I would either go broke or I would never eat it. Those are my only options. I would either spend all of my money, because it was very expensive, all my money on it and go broke, or I would just never be able to eat it. So Law Barbecue in Austin, Texas. I think they're opening one up in Charleston, South Carolina. That place is amazing. So I would encourage, if you ever find yourself in those areas, to check it out. Today, we're going to talk about a social media win or fail on the Ask Biz Show. And this week we are talking about a hashtag steak fail. I don't know if that's a taken hashtag or anything, but some steakhouse should take advantage of the hashtag steak fail. So last week, maybe it was even 2 weeks ago, Michigan was playing, the University of Michigan was playing Rutgers University. Now, this is an in-conference game for those of you who are not big football fans, or especially not Big Ten fans. This is a conference game. It was at Rutgers, and so there was no reason to think that this was going to be a complete and utter destruction blowout. And so Ruth's Chris Steakhouse of Ann Arbor, Michigan, did a special where they said, whatever the point differential is between Michigan's score and Rutgers' score will be your percentage off of your meal. And like I said, conference game at Rutgers shouldn't have been a complete destruction. Well, the ending score, I believe, was 78-0 in favor of Michigan. Now, nobody probably would have seen that coming, but 78-0 is a ridiculous score. That's a basketball-like score. In fact, one person said 10 more minutes of that game and you'd be paying the public to eat your steak, which is a really funny thought. But Ruth's Chris Steakhouse, here's where they kind of, this is where it dives into a social media fail. They took this opportunity they had to capitalize on this press, because this was a nationally trending topic. Like, this showed up in my Facebook feed, and I saw people from Florida commenting on it as well. So this was a national news story that Ruth's Chris was going to do a percentage off based on Michigan's win, which would have been up to 78% at that point. 78% off your meal at Ruth's Chris. I might even be able to afford that, so that would be great. But but during the game, they decided to update the post. So they changed the post halfway through the event to say as limited to 50% off. And this is where the social media fail came into way. Because as Gary Vaynerchuk says, America hates the cover-up. You know, you may design a phone that you didn't design well enough and it catches fire, but when you try to blame other people for that, when you try to make it look like it was the public's fault because they left it on the charger too long, America hates that. Just own your mistake. Now, these are only good for a week after the game. We're not talking about years of pain that this restaurant would have to suffer. We're talking about a week. And so I think they made two grievous errors here. Number one, the first error is they didn't think through the promotion super well. And so what that means is when you are working on a promotion, especially when it could be very public, you have to think through all the ways that people are going to abuse that promotion. And we all abuse promotions, right? I mean, if you don't, then you are probably canonized by the Catholic Church. But we all try to find ways to get good deals from businesses that we like. And so they didn't think this through all the way and were stuck hanging the bill of that online, because either they didn't think through or they weren't thorough enough in putting the rules out there saying that this is only good for 50% off. Yeah, super couponers, like Brent just mentioned, you're essentially abusing the system. You're working within the rules, but you are not following the spirit of the law. You're only following the letter of the law. And so we all do it. But Ruth's Chris gave too big of an opportunity because, one, they didn't think through the potential cost of how bad this game could be, or they didn't spell it out clearly in the rules on the post on Facebook. Now, that's your first thing. So if you're looking through a promotion, think through what is the worst way that this could go. Like, what happens if I sell 10,000 of them? What happens if and you don't want to pull a bait and switch. You don't. What happens if I sell 10,000 of these? Like, there was a story of a bakery in London who did a deal where, you know, the half off of the coupon online, and they sold 10,000 units, and they went out of business because they couldn't deal with the giant cut in profits. So a lot of times those places, those deal of the day places, they'll have now limits on how many of them they sell. And so that's why they do that, is because they've seen how bad this could get if it went out of control. And it goes from being an advertisement to a giant liability. Brent, you have a great comment. Yeah, there are people who are just deal hunters. That's true. But this is only for a week, and it's only a reservation restaurant, and so you can't just walk into this place and get a deal as soon as that. You have to get reservations to Ruth's Chris. So Ruth's Chris had a limited amount of liability this week, and that's why I think what they should have done, instead of just canceling or changing the deal. Now, people still got 50% off, which is pretty impressive, but they got a lot of bad press out of it, and I think they could have turned it into a good press situation in a couple of different ways. I think they could have, did PR promos about the craziness of the week that followed because of that. Like, you could have a running counter on your Facebook page or on your website talking about how much money people have gotten off this week. You know, if maybe it would have hit a couple $1,000s of people what they've gotten off of their meals. I think you could have done a video showing people coming in and talking about how much they got off and how much fun it was, and maybe even, I bet people would be generous tippers based on that as well. And so you could work on maybe a video content to get some good feeling, good PR in the community. I think it would have been fun to invite the entire Rutgers team to come and eat at the discount, just because, one, you'd make fun of Rutgers, which your hometown fans would like. Two, they're probably not going to be able to come to Michigan from Rutgers to come enjoy that. So you get some fun points for that. And it could have been a really heartwarming PR win, but instead they had a lot of flack thrown at them on the internet. And the internet's really good at throwing flack, but it wasn't necessarily undeserved. And then I noticed today that Ruth's Chris of Ann Arbor hasn't had a post on Facebook since October 9th. And I think really going for a deal, keeping it on the down low right now on their advertising is probably a great idea. So I endorse that decision. And they were doing it. They were trying to respond. You know, every time someone left a comment, they would respond and say, you know, this is what happened. But like Gary Vee says, America hates the cover up, and so they would have done better to have just, I think, stuck with the deal and try to capitalize on the deal instead of letting the deal own them. So that's this week's Ask Biz Show. I'd love to hear about your favorite steak you've ever eaten. And then if you have questions for future episodes, we will be taking those. You can submit one on the Facebook page or on Twitter or through our Google form. And I hope you all have a wonderful day. And don't have any fails at social media. It's not good for business.